Listening to 100 Words or Less with Ray Harkins. Hello one, hello all. Welcome to the podcast in which we bring people on who are obsessed with punk, hardcore, indie rock, emo, metal, and are creating it, documenting it, participating in a very deep way. And I am thrilled today to bring a guest who interview retirement, I'm going to say, because he hasn't really done very much of this, not only in the past 10 to 15 years, but kind of in general. I have Brett Burnham from Torn Apart, who, if you are not familiar with, they were a Baltimore hardcore band in the, I would say, like mid to late 90s / early 2000s. We get into the history a large amount in this interview, but they just recently played some shows. They played in Baltimore as a reunion show, and then they played a show in Austin. Full disclosure, I recorded this episode and this conversation before they played those shows. So if you hear us referencing the fact that they're playing shows, that's in the past. I'm sorry, but you'll figure it out. But yeah, Torn Apart, incredibly important band to me personally. They put out some stuff on Life Sentence Records, and they also put out a EP and a full length on Ferret Records. You'll be able to find those later releases, the EP and the full length that were on Ferret, on all of the streaming providers. You can do a little deep dive on YouTube to find their Nothing is Permanent release that came out on Life Sentence Records, which, like I said, was huge for me. That embodied everything I loved about metalcore in the 90s. And I remember first getting that full length and just being like, I love this band so much. I think they're incredible. It was basically like how I felt when I first heard Unbroken's Life, Love, Regret, where I was just like, I feel like a part of my brain is unlocked and I understand this music even more. So anyways, Brett was incredibly gracious. He's been a tattoo artist for many, many years. And like I said, hasn't really done this sort of type of interview in forever, let alone, shaking his brain loose, trying to, find out details about a band that, hadn't played shows for many, many years. I actually got a chance to see them. They played another reunion show. This was probably, early 10s, I guess we'll call it. We triangulate the date in the actual interview, but I saw them play with Turmoil, and I was giddy. I was so excited to watch them, and they were great. And so here's to hopefully them doing some more stuff, and you need to listen to it. If you like 90s metalcore and you've never listened to Torn Apart, just rectify that immediately. So anyways, let's talk about the ways that you can support the show for free, for $0. First of all, you can email me, 100wordspodcast@gmail.com. Love to hear feedback, concerns, guest ideas, whatever's on your brain. Dump it in there. I respond to all. I read them all, and I do my best to respond to all of them. So thank you very much for your continued, tapping in there. And then also, you can leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. That helps out and is like 45 seconds of your time, or simply just leave a star rating on Spotify. And I know every podcast asks you to do this, but if you do it, I wish that I could indicate if you've done it so I don't need to mention it to you, because you know what? I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the other person listening to it. But let's rectify that. Just do it, get it over with, and then you can fast forward this part and everybody wins. Let's talk about weekly recommendations. In the show notes, there's a link to a playlist either on Apple Podcast or Apple Music or Spotify, and you'll be able to listen to the collected works of all of these recommendations, because truthfully, I feel really passionate about just sharing music in general, whether that's the interview that I'm doing on a particular episode or whether that's just sharing new music in general. And to be clear, this playlist is not new in general. It's new to me, stuff that I've rediscovered, stuff that I wanted to flag because I've been listening to it a lot, all of that stuff. So if you're looking for some sort of inspiration for listening to music that you might not have checked out, check in those playlists. And today's recommendation is actually a new release. It's from J-Som. The record is called Belong. It came out on polyvinyl. Truthfully, I've heard of J-Som for quite some time. I think she put out a record probably 4 years ago, but has done a lot of work in the Boy Genius camp and a lot of other sort of singer-songwriter structures, just a prolific musician, artist in general. This record is unbelievable. I think it's a really, really cool sort of indie rock, emo adjacent. There's actually a guest vocal part from not only Hayley Williams from Paramore and her own solo endeavors, but Jim Adkins from Jimmy Eat World sings on the second song on the record, and it is spectacular. I love it when Jim does guest spots on bands' records, not only because Jimmy Eat World is one of my favorite bands of all time, but Jim doesn't do that a ton. Jim, I'm friends with him. We're friendly. Had him on the podcast like 7 years ago. No big deal. But anyways, if you've just been hearing Jay Som's name, definitely check this record out. Belong. And it came out on polyvinyl. It's really, really exceptional. So if you like any of that stuff that I've mentioned there, you most likely will like this. So there we go. There's all the business. Oh, actually, no, hold on. Let's talk about Ink and Dagger. I was actually in Philadelphia this past weekend and checked out the Ink and Dagger reunion shows. I went to 2 of them. One of them in the church, and then they did a Sunday night show at a venue called like Watts on Warehouse or something. I've never been to that one, but it was incredibly special. Jeff from Thursday sang with them. It's just really, really special to watch these bands be able to get the sort of appreciation of their music that came out at a time where, at the most they were playing in front of like 150, 200 kids or whatever at a clip, probably usually much smaller than that. And Ink and Dagger was always a band that I enjoyed towards the end of their band life once they started to put out records on Buddyhead. I love that record, by the way. Their self-titled record, chef's kiss, so good. Even though a lot of people were just like, I don't understand this weird sort of like, atmospheric stoner rock stuff. What is this band? Didn't this band used to dress up like vampires? That was like the critic's voice right there. Anyways, the Ink and Dagger shows were incredibly special. And I know this sounds stupid to encourage you to do this, but if you ever get a chance to travel to go to shows, take it. There's something special about not only going to a different city and watching a whole different scene interact with this. Fortunately, I've been to Philly many, many times and have friends there, and it was not a foreign place for me to watch a show, but it just gets you out of your normal sort of show going recipe of all of your local stuff that you go to, which is totally fine, and you should still keep going to that. But if you get a chance to travel for shows, and again, I know that sounds like a stupid statement to say, but I just want to make sure if you have not done that, you should do that. It's incredibly special. So anyways, shout out to Ink and Dagger. So cool. Listen to an interview I did with Don DeVore, the guitarist of Ink and Dagger, maybe 2-3 years ago. Incredibly sweet dude, incredibly intelligent. So anyways, let's talk to Brett Burnham from Torn Apart. And oh my gosh, I'm excited to say that. So let's go. Being from Southern California, Torn Apart existed in this era. Like, I'm 44, and so like definitely very when I started to attend shows, it was like 96, 97 or so. But the legend of bands only existed obviously either in friends telling you about them or like reading about them in zines, and like you just had such little information. Right. But in Southern California, it was very interesting because, I'll attribute some of it to 18 Visions, but, and then Excessive Force as well. But like Life Sentence bands, like I don't know, it was weird. It was like, oh, you got to know all these Life Sentence bands. So I was like going down that rabbit hole pretty early. Yeah. And again, kind of pardon the basic question, but like, I don't even know how you guys existing in Baltimore and like how you guys even like started, because Baltimore, even though it is a music town and obviously a lot of bands have come from there, it was not like the cultural center point for hardcore in the 90s. So how did you guys even like start the band?
I think, at least for me, it was kind of already a thing that was sort of started before I got involved in Torn Apart. So it was the original drummer, Devin Gallagher, was kind of the guy who started the entire idea. And he just kind of recruited a metalhead guitar player. Not a metalhead, but like a metal leaning guy. Yeah. And I think they were both in 11th grade. They found a bass player, a guy named Paul Price, who played like a fretless bass and looked very suicidal tendencies.
Yeah.
And he was a bit older. And I think it was just the three of them at first. And somehow the bass player from Next Step Up, I don't know if you know that band at all, Aaron Martinick, I think officially he was their first singer, but I don't think they ever played shows or anything. I think they were just practicing. And that was right around the time that Next Step Up was going to do their first European tour, I believe. So Aaron, first singer, out real quick. You know, he had this opportunity with his main thing he was going to go do. And through another friend who went to high school with them, like they were looking for a singer. And I had been in, bands since middle school. Kind of directionless, like not anything fully formed or anything. So when first singer left Torn Apart, they were looking for a singer. A friend of mine who was a guitar player went to high school with them. So we kind of got brought over as a package deal. And it just started that way. So it was three guys that knew what they were trying to do. Mm-hmm. And then Mike Mackery, was one of our guitar players, he and I just kind of got pulled over in about 10th grade, I believe.
Okay.
And so everything that I found out about hardcore was through Devin Gallagher, the first drummer. He was the guy who was like, I'm starting a hardcore band. Let me find people,
Sure. So was the all the stuff that you were doing prior to that, like you said, these, the not fully formed ideas and stuff, like what were your musical touch points, I guess, leading into Torn Apart?
Everything came from skate videos of like, early 90s skate videos. I remember an 8th Street video that had like a full Operation Ivy soundtrack. And that was like one of the first things that I was like, oh, there's something cooler happening than what I've known about so far,
Right.
So yeah, it was all skate video stuff. So I was really into Operation Ivy and Built to Spill and just random stuff that showed up in skate videos, Right. And there was some hardcore that ended up in that stuff, but I didn't know that that's what it was. I just knew it was something from a skate video.
Right. And that's what I love about that time in people's lives when they first start to discover music that they hear that isn't similar to what they've already heard. And you don't have any notion. You're like, oh yeah, this is a metal band, but you can like be like, oh, this is heavier, this is lighter. But you're like, yeah, I like Operation Ivy and Built to Spill because they sick parts of the video.
We would take everything that we heard in the skate videos and take them to one of my friends who I skated with, like take it to his extremely cool older sister, and she would tell us like what's kind of bullshit and what's not. Like she would like yeah, don't listen to this, but this thing you found is cool.
I love that. Yeah, you do. Whether it's a record store clerk, a sibling, someone has to point you in the right direction to be like, dude, don't like this. This sucks.
And that once Torn Apart started, once I found that group, it was just more of the same. Like our drummer's older brother had the most amazing record collection. He knew everything. So whatever we were finding, he would thumbs up or thumbs down it for us, make sure we weren't going in the wrong direction.
Sure. That's amazing. And so the bands that you were playing in before Torn Apart, like, were they all just kind of, some shade of punk and you just, messing around with your vocals?
Yeah. It wasn't like screamy or anything like that. It was definitely more like, I don't want to say pop punk because it wasn't, I don't even know if that was like quite a thing at that point in time yet, but I was definitely like emulating more like Descendants and stuff like that, like that sounded a little more melodic,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so when you got, introduced to, Torn Apart, you guys obviously first started to, put stuff together, put pen to paper for the, the 7-inch and the demo and everything. The influences, because I mean, Torn Apart, even though like, and of course I'm here to gas you up as well, but it's like listening to your stuff, especially, it's like, Nothing is Permanent. Like most mid 90s hardcore records, like sound terrible? You're just like, this sounds awful, which I'll pull that thread a little bit later. But what were the influences that you guys were kind of like trying to pull from? Because again, Baltimore, like there wasn't a huge hardcore scene or punk scene. Like there was stuff happening, but you guys were probably felt a little bit on an island in a way.
Well, that was, again, it was all through that first drummer's connections. Like it was everybody he knew. And so he was going to shows all over the place and knew everybody and was a part of the small Baltimore scene that existed at the time. So like he was pretty much everything locally that we had a reference point for was like next step up.
Okay.
That was generally it. So when we first started, like that's the shows that we were going to, and those are the first shows we were playing. It was just that was the scene that we had available to us. That was the first thing that grabbed us, you know. So it was kind of like a little more like tough guy influenced sonically than most of what was happening elsewhere, because Baltimore had kind of like a tough guy scene, you know.
No matter what, I was actually speaking to Akil from Indit, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and it's like Baltimore has always had this chip on their shoulder as a city, and it comes through the music very clearly. And I don't care if you're like, you know, Beach House or you're a hardcore band. It's like there's this element of just like, it's still a little bit sinister no matter which way you twist it.
Yeah, and it even though it's 45 minutes from DC, like the scenes like are very separate. There's overlap here and there, but like a Baltimore band is very different from a DC band, even though they're next door neighbors, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you got, started to sing for a hardcore band, which you obviously had not had a ton of experience like with that particular style, I'm guessing it was just like complete trial and error of you being like, oh, I'll try this and I'll sound like this. Or did you have some sort of concept of how you were trying to, articulate yourself from a screaming perspective?
I mean, I don't think there was anything intentional I was trying to do. It's just, I don't know. That's just kind of what happens if I start screaming. It just sounds like on like the demo, I can hear like I'm trying to make it sound like a little bit deeper, or like add some like machismo to it, or like trying to make it sound tougher or something. But I think that was pretty short lived, and then it just turned into just what it sounds like when I'm screaming. Right? It wasn't very like calculated or thought through. It was just if it sounded cool, it sounded cool.
Right. Are you loud enough to yell into a bass amp to be, heard over the band? That's all we really care about,
I mean, I was definitely hearing like all of the bands that came before us. So like I knew what it was supposed to be doing, and just tried to do that.
Sure. So when you started to, play shows and experience a little bit of the scene like you were talking about, was there, a conceit that you guys like wanted, and I'm using this in big air quotes, like wanted to take it seriously, like play shows outside of Baltimore and stuff like that? Or did that come maybe after Life Sentence got involved?
No, I think that was always part of Devin's like master plan from the very beginning. I think, he had the idea of like he wanted to get in a van and go do stuff, and he just dragged us all along. I think any of us would have gone along with whatever was happening, just being happy to play shows. But no, he really had like motivation behind him, like he had the energy to do it. So it probably wouldn't have happened if not for him,
Sure. Well, you definitely, not to, short shrift anything that he was doing, but just the idea that like there was that trust that you're like, oh yeah, like I'm not the orchestrator, but I'll follow along on this because this is cool enough. It's fun, whatever you're getting out of it. And so
I was
cool that you weren't
15, so it seemed like, what else am I going to do? And this seems like a good use of time.
Sure. Did you like care about school, and like how were your parents reacting to you bringing home this stuff that they were probably pretty freaked out by?
I think my parents are like incredibly supportive. They're like extremely cool people. I think anytime I ever like got into anything, they just wanted me to do it. Like they thought anything, as long as it wasn't something like, too sketchy. Like they wanted me to explore stuff. They wanted me to like go do what I was able to go do. So I don't think I think they were really happy about the whole like straight edge side of things. I think they thought that was like a real cool component. And they really liked the people that were around, like, so they were totally fine with just kind of letting me go run into it,
Yeah. I mean, I've joked with people on the show before where it's like the straight edge cover that like,
yeah.
just that notion of a parent being like, oh, like you really mean this? Like, oh, you're getting X's tattooed in your body and you're not going to do this? It's like,
I remember them thinking it was a very elaborate cover for like my friends and I for a little while.
Right.
Like they were suspicious, like, but they wanted to trust us, so they tried to go with it,
Sure. Yeah, they're just like you and all your dumb friends looking like total sketchballs. Like, are you sure you're not drinking?
Yeah. I mean, well, that was part of the initial appeal. Like when Devin introduced all this stuff to me was that like, I was around the age where like all the guys I were skating with were like, some people were starting to take that really seriously. Some people were just starting to party more. And I was admittedly like terrified of having to like try to keep up with like my bad friends. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
I didn't want to go try that stuff at that point, So like, I was like, oh, like over here, I'm not even the dorkiest guy in the room for not doing this shit. Like, it was a good space to get into. And I think my parents saw that too. Like they believed it, I think.
Yeah. Well, and that's great for you being, I mean, even though you probably couldn't describe yourself as such at the time, just like that feeling you had to recognize it where it's like, I don't want to have to smoke weed. Or, I don't want to
do that. I mean, a lot of that has changed over the years, but
sure.
At 14, 15, like I was happy to have some place where like there wasn't really going to be that pressure. There was a ton of it happening in the scene, like, but there were always drunken fights at shows and everything, like it was always happening, but I was in like a little group that it was okay to not, and that felt pretty good to me at the time.
Oh, what's that you say? The holiday season is here? Oh my gosh, that's terrifying, right? Because then you start to be like, dude, do I have all the gifts that I need for people? Let me solve your problem right here, right now. Rockabilia.com. Use the promo code 100 words or less for 10% off your whole order. And I don't care what style of music you're into, whether it's hardcore, punk, hip hop, metal, mainstream rock, boomer rock, whatever subgenre you're talking about, Rockabilia's got it. And not only do they have it, but it's officially licensed. High quality stuff. That means the bands get paid, you're supporting an independent business, and you can do all your shopping at one website. It's incredible. And like I said, if you order right now and use the promo code 100 words or less, it's 10% off your whole order. Go to the website, shop until your heart is content and all of your gifts are checked off, and you can be like, you know what? I did this in November and I got 10% off my order, and oh my gosh, I don't need to stress about anything. So again, let me solve that problem for you. Rockabilia.com, 10% off your order by using the promo code 100 words or less. Thank you, Rockabilia. From what I've been able to piece together, like you guys met, Dan from Life Sentence, like maybe when Excessive Force came through and played somewhere in your general area, or they stayed with you.
Yeah.
Was that how the friendship started? And like, did you guys play with Excessive Force? And that also is how he was like, oh, actually, this band's sick. I want to do something with them.
I forget where they were coming from or going to, but it was Excessive Force and VOD were on tour together. And we were playing a show with them in Western Maryland, about 3 hours from Baltimore. And I don't know how, I guess Devin, the drummer, was somehow involved in like setting things up for them in some way. They ended up staying at his house. And then we all drove up to Cumberland together and played a show. And it was at that show that Dan asked if we would want to do a 7-inch with them. And
I love that. I also love like that clearly happened. Like it happens so much where it's like you watch it, you know, a person watches a band, like does some sort of fledgling record label. And they're like, if I don't ask them right now, like, I mean, I guess I could call them later, but I'm like, I gotta do this now. Otherwise,
but I'm here.
This band's gone.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
yeah, no, it just that day it met them, hung out with them a little bit, and oh, okay, guess we're on that.
Yeah, guess we're putting out a 7-inch.
And I loved the Excessive Force 7-inch. Like I thought that first 7-inch like was awesome. And so yeah, I was way on board to do something with whatever he was doing. I was just like, that sounded like a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, the original, you know, Excessive Force, like before they, you know, grew up and had to change their name.
Yep.
So when you started to, you know, get up there on stage and play shows and obviously have that, you know, sort of interaction and feedback, did you feel comfortable with it right away? Or did you feel like you were ill-equipped and then kind of got a little better over time?
Definitely ill-equipped. But it also felt like, I don't know. There was a role to play. So, you know what I mean? Like a confident front guy, you know, like, so
Sure.
just, I'm sure it didn't look good at first at all or sound good or, you know, it was wildly uncomfortable, but, the bands I had been in before Torn Apart, like we played local shows and stuff like that. So I kind of understood the assignment. It was just, didn't feel like playing around anymore. So I like took it a little more seriously, you know?
Right. That notion of just like, oh, like these are two different friend groups coming together and like, okay, like we have to take this more seriously than anything we've done before.
And being totally honest, like the people that we were playing shows for and the bands we were playing shows with, like I was wildly intimidated by, you know, like 15 or 16 and you're meeting Bulldoze or something, you know, like, or you're playing with like 25 to Life in like 94 or something like that. It's like I'm a suburban skateboarder shitbag and like these guys are fucking scary. You know?
Totally. They've lived a life.
There's a lot of self-preservation involved there. It was just like, oh, like I don't want to be the asshole here. Like I don't want to be the one doing it dumb or anything because I'm terrified of these people.
Sure. I'm gonna mind my P's and Q's here because I know that these guys, they know what's happening, whereas I don't.
Because like a gun fell out of that guy's waistband while he was moshing. You know, like I don't really want to fuck around.
Totally.
So I think I was really cautious.
Okay.
Like because I was uncomfortable and intimidated, and like I just wanted it to be liked. You know.
Sure. Like there was that sense of because this is being taken more seriously, like I don't want to be the one pulling this down by like, you know, not holding my weight or like you said,
exactly.
minding your piece.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. Talk to me about this was something I mentioned a little bit earlier, but talk to me about recording, you know, Nothing is Permanent, because like I said, most 90s records and like a very distinct memory I personally have, played in a band and released records with Chris Logan from Chokehold that released records on Goodfellow Records. Anyways, I was like, you know, in awe of him because I was like, you're Chokehold, you want to put on my band's record? But then he lovingly described all the Chokehold recordings as like throwing trash cans down a hallway. I was like, you're not wrong.
No, yeah, they don't sound great.
No. You're like, I don't understand how more Metal Zone you can make your guitar sound like buzzsaws, but that's fine. But I bring that up because nothing is permanent. Like, still to this day, like, yes, you could put it in the 90s and you can understand that, but it has a different sound that I guess doesn't age as poorly. I know you probably have a colored perspective on it where you're like, yeah,
I think it's recorded better than we played it. Like, I think the recording quality is better than the band was.
Okay.
You know.
Well, yeah, talk to me about that. Like, did you feel, I guess, prepared to go in and like record a full length, or where was your head at?
Well, we'd already, like, so I'd had like the demo tapes for bands before and everything, so I understood like the studio experience like a little tiny bit. And the guy who did all of the Next Step Up albums and like a lot of the like punk and hardcore stuff in the area is this guy Drew Mazurek, who I just listened to the bass player from Texas Is the Reasons episode, and I remember going into that studio, and we only went because he did all the bands in the area, and it was his home studio in his basement, and we're looking at the walls of like all the tapes he has and everything, like looking on his shelves, and the Texas Is the Reason album is in there. He recorded at a studio, not at his home studio, but he recorded the Texas Is the Reason album. So guy's good,
Right. Right.
And on weekends he would just let, a bunch of teenagers hang out in his basement and he would record them. And he really walked us through everything. Like, he was really cool. So like, we would come in with how we did things and he'd be like, you guys are fucking stupid. Like, we're going to do it like this. And he would just said, it was like, no, you're not playing that snare. Like, that's ridiculous, and he would fix everything for us, and so it felt like we were under a good wing, just like, okay, we just play the songs. He tells us how we're supposed to do this, though, and like, we thought you just go in, record live, and like, there it is. And he's like, no, you idiots. Like,
right.
He walked us through all of it, and he did everything. We recorded everything with him up until the last full length.
Okay, got it.
So he did 98% of all of our recordings, from the demo up until that last 12-inch.
That is, I mean, I love to hear that story because it's so, you feel so at home with a person that, probably doesn't have this deep context for like punk or hardcore, like knows enough, but like, that's not what they're typically recording. And so the fact that he was like ushering you guys through, this is how a professional band does it. Like, here we go.
Yeah, no, he definitely took on like an annoyed big brother role. And like, I credit him with a lot of our early progress, like us figuring out how we're supposed to be like writing and playing and stuff,
Okay.
Him making fun of us for little things that we were okay with, that he's like, you guys are fucking stupid. Like, it can't be this way,
I'm guessing this is not to air any sort of confidential information or anything. I imagine, like you said, you guys were just like going in over weekends over a month or two, and Dan probably gave you guys like $800 to record this thing or whatever. Do you remember any details like that? Like how long it took, and like how much he gave you, which was probably peanuts.
I feel like we always did everything. I don't think anything ever took us more than like 3 days. Like, I think that's about the amount of time we were allowed to have, like, for anything. Yeah. And, I don't remember like what it cost or how, like, again, Devin, he was the band dad. He was the one taking care of everything. We were just the goons. And, I think everything happened pretty quick. We never had like a whole lot of time to spend on anything.
Sure.
So, like, I don't think it ever. Always, yeah. And it would usually be like a weekend or two, and that'd be it.
That's it. I would be remiss if I did not mention, for me and my friends, the completely idiotic yet super funny prank call that you guys included. I like it. The torn apart, more like born to fart, like lives in my head. Like it's just so dumb, but it's so good. And it's like anytime.
That has not gone away at all. Like that still gets brought up like pretty regularly. It's funny.
I just I love the fact that you guys not only put that on there, because that definitely, I mean, like no one is including prank calls on hardcore records anymore, or whatever.
Yeah.
But what motivated you guys to put that on there? Was it just like, this is, a serious record, so we want to like lighten the mood, or this was literally just like,
I don't think there was, it was definitely not thought through that much.
Okay.
It was just it's prime like Jerky Boys era, like prank calls were like a thing. We had the little like recorder thing from Radio Shack that you like put on the phone to like record it and everything. And yeah, we were probably just like sitting around after practice, just making prank calls, and somebody suggested trying Dan. So we did. And yeah, like it just fully improvised, just like, let's talk to Dan. Dan didn't know it was me until we sent it along for the like record to get pressed, for the like album to get released. We're like, oh, and here's the bonus track. And he called like that day, was just like, that was you guys, fuck you.
I was gonna say, he obviously had enough sense of humor to like keep it on there. But
he didn't seem bummed. He didn't seem bummed and he doesn't seem bummed at all throughout the call. Like he's just rolling with it. He's like, oh yeah, I should kick him off. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Totally. This sort of, I mean, at that time too, like hardcore was not as, professional as what it was like towards the end of your guys' original existence as a band. But, did you feel like once the, record was out there, like, did you feel the, I'm not going to say pressure, but like the obligation to like get out there and tour? And what sort of touring did you do around Nothing Is Permanent?
We took our first like full US tour. Like, I think it was like the summer after, it was the summer after 11th grade for me. And, it was just, the most poorly planned show, like where we like lined up 7 inches in order, like of like a geographical line, like, okay, like this band, their address is in Virginia, this band, theirs is in Tennessee, like, and we like just reached out to all the bands and like tried to figure out who puts on shows in their town. And then once we got to the West Coast, Dan helped set up a lot of that, but it was like we had to get ourselves there, and we did a terrible job. The first tour we ever did, like full tour, was first show was in DC, second show was in Tyler, Texas, which is
of course
24-hour drive away. Third show was in Phoenix, Arizona, so like a 26-hour drive. And we showed up to our show at the Showcase in Corona on the back of a flatbed, like because the van had broken down, and it was just a disaster. Like it was a mess.
Right. That's incredible. I mean, yeah, those were definitely the times. Like even, I mean, because the band I played in, like we started playing shows like 97, 98, still had the same sort of like just meager, like, yeah, here's our full US, 3 weeks, like 7 shows. It's like, what are we doing? Doesn't matter. It's a vacation, I guess.
I definitely think we had like the benefit of being on the East Coast and the Mid-Atlantic specifically, is that like in 3 hours in any direction, you have 9 cities, like, so what you could do on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like was a lot. You could hit a lot of places in a few days, so that was the majority of what we did. It's like Friday night play Philly, Saturday night play Erie, Sunday do a matinee in Rochester or something, and then just drive home overnight so you can get to school the next day.
Right. Who, at that time, who would you kind of consider your, your kin bands, like the bands that you guys always ended up playing shows with, or, you had strong friendships with, who were kind of your peers?
I think I might be wrong, but like, I feel like it was around that time that we first played shows with like Brothers Keeper and that scene got out. Like we weren't playing so much with like Fury of Five and Bulldoze and things like that anymore, and like E-Town Concrete and stuff. Like,
right.
And we started playing with like bands that not that I didn't like any of those other bands. I definitely did, but like I felt more at home with kind of what was happening northwest of us just a little bit, like that scene felt a little more comfortable to me. Mm-hmm. It seemed more like there were a lot more people that I can tell got to hardcore through skateboarding as opposed to I don't know, however it normally happens in Baltimore. Like I don't feel like it doesn't have a strong skateboarding background, It does now, I think, but like I don't think it really did at that point,
Yeah.
These weren't skaters, like starting bands. And it felt like that's kind of more what it was in places like Erie and Buffalo and Syracuse. And like in that area, it just seemed to make a little bit more sense.
Yeah. And I mean, you saying a band like Brothers Keeper, the idea, especially like lyrically, what you were going for, pretty much through the entire run of Torn Apart, like there was always this thing. I mean, yes, like, of course, when you're writing lyrics, when you're, 16, 17 years old, like you cringe, you're just like, what is this? But for me, it was always like, okay, here's this, like really interesting metallic hardcore band, but lyrically you resembled like a positive hardcore band. And like, which I'm sure was like, that's what you were kind of pulling from. Or was that just a function of like, I really didn't know how to express myself in any other way, so like this is how I'm going about it? Or how did that, I guess, kind of germinate in you?
I think that's like just the kind of like content that I enjoy. So I think like that's what I just kind of naturally ended up wanting to do. And there's definitely stuff where like I can like if I read the lyrics back and I like know what kind of posturing I was trying to do, like, or like what necessary like check mark I was trying to put there, like, oh, we got to have like the animal rights song and everything, and we got to have like the scene song or whatever, like, and I guess some of that stuff doesn't feel completely genuine, like that feels like just kind of ticking a box or something, but the ones I still like are definitely the ones that were me kind of letting like my complete absence of toughness like kind of like take the reign,
Let's take a break in the action to talk about our friends at evilgreed.com. Heavy music merchandise for cool people. I just made up that last part, but they are an amazing web store that houses a bunch of bands and record labels all in one spot. And they want to give you 10% off your first order by using the promo code VINYL, VINYL. And that is specifically for this show. So when you use that promo code, not only do you benefit, but then it shows that marketing works and all of this commerce helps not only you, me, and this awesome business. I dare you to go to evilgreed.com and find like at least 40 things that you want to purchase. I dare you to do that. You'll probably find more because truthfully, they work with awesome bands and record labels that are all under the heavy music guise. The fact that they're working with this show indicates the fact that I would say at least 80% of the guests that we have on there have some sort of affiliation with Evil Greed, whether that's exclusive colors of vinyl, whether that's a web store, or whether that is simply they want to work with Evil Greed. All of those things can be true at the same time. And when you go to evilgreed.com, you know you're getting high quality stuff. They ship from their headquarters in Berlin, Germany, but it goes worldwide. So for those of you that are being like, you know what? I need a spot to buy all of my presents for all of my friends that are into metal, indie rock, screamo, whatever it is, as long as it's, of the heavy music genre. they got it. And the shipping rates to us here in the United States are very cheap. All things considered, it gets to you very quick. I've ordered from them before, and I've gotten an order in less than 10 days. I live in California, shipping from Berlin, Germany. They know what's up. You're supporting an awesome, independently run business by punk and hardcore kids, and that truly, truly brings me joy in this holiday season. So again, 10% off your order by using the promo code vinyl at evilgreed.com. Every band, I appreciate you saying that, just like, ticking a box, because it does feel like, especially when you're operating at such a, young age, and you're an idiot. You're just taking stabs in the dark, and you're just like, I like these other bands. They sing a song like that. So like, this is what I am. So I'm of course going to do this. But like, just that awareness that you had of being like, yeah, like I like, Fury 5, Bulldoze or whatever, but like no one is ever going to look at me and think I'm tough.
Yeah, that doesn't need to come out of my mouth at all. Like, it would make no sense.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like, I wish I could look back on all of it and say it's like, it feels totally authentic. But like, there's some, like it, where I knew I was just kind of, this will work. You know what I mean? Like, and they're going to like this, like, which is a shitty way to go about it. But, it's teenager. Yeah. What do I know?
Of course.
It did evolve into something much more genuine for me, but that came later,
Right. Yeah. Because then you actually develop more as a person, and you actually have a point of view as opposed to just mirroring whatever you see out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Super random, but like, I know it's like there's two pieces of art for Nothing Is Permanent, like the original press, and then like, the artwork changed slightly in regards to, was that just like, do you have any recollection of why that existed in the first place? Was it just like, we got to get some CDs printed? And like, actually, that looks like crap. We got to change this.
The first Nothing Is Permanent? Like,
yeah.
So I don't know what the second one looks like. Is it is it the same artwork, but it's just like framed differently or something?
Exactly.
And then there's like some other band like on the end of the album or something too. Like, I remember something about that. But no, the guy that did the album artwork is this guy Carlos Batz, who was just like just a guy from the scene here who did, again, like artwork for Next Step Up. And it was like, we just asked him to do something for us, and that's what he did. And I have no idea why it got changed or what happened. I feel like we were already off of Life Sentence Records by the time the different version came out.
Sure.
So, and we weren't in contact with Dan at all anymore. So like, yeah, no idea why that got changed.
It's probably, I mean, truthfully, it's like the version that I personally like, I just saw, I never even saw the, quote unquote original version or first pressing of CDs or whatever. But it was like, once I saw it, I was just like, it's so funny because that happened to so many bands where it was like, once you actually see it in print, because I mean, sometimes maybe you got a proof, other times you didn't. And so, just like, this look good. No, it doesn't.
Again, it was at that point in it, at least for me, I'm sure like some of the other guys would have had strong opinions or something, but like I was definitely not confident enough to think that this needs to be the way I like things to look or the way I like things to sound necessarily. Like, I was just happy to be participating in, like, we were all really good friends. So like I was not very picky about how that stuff went, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it goes along with, when you are developing your role in a band, sometimes it's hard to like shift from the way that you were initially, where it's just like, oh yeah, because I mean, you couldn't imagine, someone else in the band besides your drummer doing like the business stuff. It's like, no, that's his thing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to do that. Yeah.
I don't have that. Like, I don't have that gene.
Totally. For you, when did you notice, I guess paying attention to Torn Apart, or you felt like there was, I'm not going to use the word momentum because it wasn't like you all of a sudden shifted into like, oh, now we're going to make it as a rock and roll band or whatever.
Yeah.
When did you notice that happening? Was it like after Nothing Is Permanent came out, and like, is there a specific kind of, time frame where you're like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe this happened?
it was definitely once we got to like on that first tour that we got to Southern California.
Okay.
Like that was, and I think because like that's where Life Sentence was, that the album had gotten out into people's hands a little bit better, faster there, you know, like, so by when we first went out there, and I remember playing that show at the Showcase, and that was like the first like, oh shit, like this is going well. You know, like this isn't how the shows usually feel. And then it slowly just kind of built from there. So it really was that point though. It was like after Nothing Is Permanent was released and after getting out there, that I think that was the first time we saw that like, oh, we might have something kind of cool that could work, you know, like, and so that's when we really started playing a lot.
That's
just to get it out there in as many people's hands as possible, you know.
When I got into you guys, you had already, like, that Showcase show already had happened. I mean, it happens to everybody where you're just like, you look 6 months in the rear view and you're like, oh my gosh, all these bands played and I didn't even know, like, you know, I wasn't aware of the Showcase.
Yeah.
I love how, I mean, that specific venue and Southern California in general was such a litmus test for bands where it was like, you feel like, you know, I mean, Disembodied's another example where it's like, there's so many bands that crushed it in Southern California. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, we feel like we can, like, I don't know, like someone cares. And it's so exciting.
Was a confidence boost, like, for sure. You know, like, I think it was doing well enough that like going on tour seemed like it would make sense, but that was definitely when it like started to shift for us. And I think it was probably more at shifting in our heads, like it giving us like a confidence boost, and like more than it shifting anything else, it probably just shifted our behavior. We got a little cocky or something, and like, you know, pushed a little harder, you know.
Yeah, right. It gave you
or
that,
felt valid in pushing, you know.
Totally get a little gas in the tank, so to speak.
Yeah.
Signing to Ferret, like I remember, I mean, especially at that time, you know, Ferret and Trustkill, like they were, you know, becoming more of a nationally known, you know, label and brand or whatever that took it, you know, a little bit more seriously than, you know, your New Age records or whatever. But did it feel like a big deal for you guys to like move on to Ferret?
Yeah, very much so. Like it definitely did to me, because like I was saying, like there was, you know, like experiencing different scenes and everything. There was a scene that just felt like it made more sense than Life Sentence Records or you know, like I think it always bothered Dan that we weren't like a straight edge band, you know, like that some of us were straight edge, some of us never were. And it didn't, and that definitely seemed like that was that's the direction he wanted to go. So like, you know, finding someplace that was putting out all the, you know, Trustkill specifically was putting out like a lot of the bands I was into at the time. And Ferret was kind of presented as like it started as like Trustkill's like little brother or something. And then it like, you know, did its own thing, but it felt like, it definitely felt like this is a better situation for us, you know, like, and because as we were writing stuff, that was around the time that we parted ways with the first drummer. And it was because like he wasn't really able to keep up with the writing that our guitar players were doing. Like the music was getting more complicated. It was getting less stompy. It was getting like a little more metal influenced or something, you know, and he just wasn't able to keep up. And it was that guy, Drew Mazurek, that recorded us. He was the one pointing it out, you know, like that the job was getting harder because like the drums just aren't keeping up with the progress of the rest of the band.
Right.
And so when we got a new drummer who wasn't coming from like the scene that we started in, like it just moved us out of that a little bit more and into something that felt more like what was going on with Ferret and Trustkill and those bands. Like I said,
Right.
just sonically, we made more sense there.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's where, especially it's like, the 7-inch that, led into the 59th session. I mean, it just felt like you guys were more, groove oriented, where it was like.
And if you listen to the 7-inch, the three more songs that make it the 59th session, the first drummer is on the 7-inch, the second drummer is on the 6th song, and you can tell, like it got tighter, it got better,
It does. I mean, it sounded like I remember buying that at a distro, and I mean, listening to it and really enjoying it. It was like, cool, this like band is going, kind of even further. But it like when you listen to it compared to the actual EP, it's like, oh yeah, that feels like demos, It was like,
yeah,
that's just
yeah, totally. And that's by the time we got to the 59th session, like that's when I feel like we were, like, that's the stuff I'm most proud of. Like, that's the stuff I look back on, that lineup, recording that album, like that was the best it ever was for us, I think. Yeah, so it something had changed. We had a new drummer, we had gotten a new bass player a few years before that, and it was all just like being fine-tuned to the right people in the right place on the right label, and like that really like let the stuff that I'm most proud of happen,
Sure. The pieces fell in together, which is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
For you guys, like, why do the EP first? Was it just a function of you guys not having like enough songs for a full length, or?
I honestly don't remember. I have
Okay.
no idea. Like yeah, it's like in hindsight, it's kind of a weird move. Like I think it was going to be 2 7-inches.
Okay.
And when we just kind of decided we liked the way the songs from the 7-inches like were sounding now, and like, well, let's just, instead of doing 2 7-inches, like we'll redo the first 7-inch and put the other, and we'll just call it this. I'm
Right.
pretty sure that's what happened. Like I could be totally wrong, but I don't remember it being, it's like it seeming like a weird thing to do at the time.
No, I mean, especially when you're making shifts, and like sometimes bands do that. And truthfully, like that was a thing that was more common within the context of, I mean, other bands like, Scarlet released an EP first when they came over to Fair, whatever. So it's like, it wasn't too weird, but just like when you retroactively look at it, it's like, oh, it's kind of weird. Like I wonder if it was just not having enough songs, because that obviously happens all the time to bands where they're like, I just got to get something out because we got to get back on the road or whatever.
I don't. I mean, that could be, but I don't remember that being the reason. It could have been that we just didn't have anything, but
yeah,
I don't. I don't remember.
Yeah, totally fine. The feeling like, I'm sure, like once you guys, started to play shows around the EP and starting to see the, sizable shifts that were happening in the late 90s with, all of those labels, or like so much attention was paid to them, and Hellfest existing, and, the scene just being expanding rapidly. Did you guys, I mean, obviously disbanded before. I mean, 99 was technically your last year as a band, right? Or 2000?
Yeah. 90, end of 99, 2000, something like that.
Yeah. Did you personally, like, were you feeling that shift and like noticing that shift within I guess the scene, like the shows you were playing?
Yeah, I think so. It definitely seemed like it was the when you see like bands that you remember, like they opened for you at some point, and then they just rocket past you, and they're and I don't know, it seemed like we had figured out how to take it as seriously as we could, and this a wave came up of people that could take it much more seriously, and so it I did notice that, like, oh, like people are really making a go of making this a job, like staying on tour and stuff. And I don't think that's like, by that point, I don't think any of us felt like we had the steam for it.
Okay.
And I know for me, like, I had just started tattooing, and I worked for it was right back to like the beginning of the hardcore scene for me. Like it was right back to like, fuck, I'm like a kid again, and this guy is terrifying. Like the guy I worked for was so fucking scary. And it was like, well, I'm either going to have to do this, which looks like it's going to take everything, or I can keep doing this thing where it doesn't seem like we're keeping up, you know? Like with how much you should be playing, how much you should be putting out and everything. So it seemed like and there were some like more member changes in that time.
Yep.
Like, and we got to a point where it was me and Drew Lamont, the guitar player. We were the only two people that were in it since the beginning. And I don't think I ever had enough responsibility. It's just like, okay, you guys get it together, and like I'll do my part. You know, you guys get your part right, and I'll make my part right.
Right.
And I don't think he had any interest in teaching another guitar player or another bass player, or like, you know, I feel like a lot of this, the reason the 10 songs, the last thing we did, why that sounds so much different than everything else was their songs were written with a different band, you know, like there were a lot of different members of it, and the dynamic between the people that were still there had changed, you know, like now our drummer is kind of in the driver's seat again. We have a new bass player, new guitar player, and writing just doesn't happen the same way, you know, because so much of what we liked about it was the Aaron on drums, Drew on guitar and bass, Mike on guitar. Like the 59th session lineup was like the sweet spot. And like as that fell apart, like the whole thing just did, you know?
Yeah. Well,
there was nobody being the dad anymore. And like and it just kind of, and everybody was on with their lives, you know?
Sure.
To some degree.
Right. Yeah. The alchemy changes when, I mean, sometimes it happens for if just one person, sometimes it is, you know, multiple people. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, this doesn't like, I mean, truthfully, I remember being disappointed in the full length, just being like, oh, I felt like they were onto something. Like,
yeah, no, me too.
It's like there's elements of the record that I'm just like, oh, like that's the torn apart that was like on the EP and everything I've enjoyed before. But I can understand what you're talking about, where it's like, yeah, there's like too much has changed for this to like probably be called torn apart anymore. But like, of course we're torn apart.
I don't think Drew and I, by the time that album was done, like I don't think either of us were feeling very good about where the thing we'd been doing since high school had like,
right.
Not that it's like, I don't know, listening back on it, there's some shit I genuinely like on it. Like,
totally.
I think some of it's really good, but like at the time, I wasn't feeling like, oh, okay, this should keep going.
Right.
You know, like I was just a little disappointed. It didn't feel like when then the other stuff came out, you know?
Sure.
It wasn't excited like to go do it.
Right. It wasn't like the exclamation point where it's like, oh my gosh, like now this just gives us another 2 to 3 years of life. It's like, no, this felt, this felt what it did. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like you guys you really didn't like play very many shows or tour after that record, right? Like I like to record it at all, right? Okay.
No, by the time we finished that album, we were a 3-piece and we never put it back together, really.
Okay. Got it.
You know, I think we did like maybe, I don't know, my timeline can get screwy. We might have played I'm pretty sure we played some stuff, but we never traveled on it or anything, you know?
Right. Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, like, you did the art on that, right? Like you, or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't like just assuming, because I didn't have the actual CD on me to be like, oh, let me reference to make sure that Brett did this. But so yeah, it sounds like you were not that happy with it, or what's the story?
Well, I mean, I'm never all that happy with anything I do.
Fair, okay.
I remember seeing a guy at a show, and he had it tattooed big as shit across his throat. And like, it was like such a mixed feeling. It was just like, well, that's fucking rad. But like, I'm so sorry I didn't draw that better. like, oh man, that could have been like, I love it, but I'm sorry.
Sure. Right. You're truthfully going to be, especially because you obviously, have developed a tattoo discipline. And then on top of that, being like critical of your work and then being like putting it out on a record that you don't feel as strongly as the other. There's probably so much mixed in there.
And that's like being fully consumed in the tattoo world, being very, very new to it, like just starting to tattoo and like not understanding the imagery or how it's used or anything, and like just kind of throwing a turd together that to me looks like that looks like some guy who's been tattooing for about a week and decided he was going to draw some shit cool enough for an album cover. Like, yeah, sure. I'm not particularly psyched on it.
I understand. I mean, I don't bring it up to other.
No, not at all.
Yeah, to identify it, but then also just kind of be like, oh yeah, like I'm pretty sure I can track that. But I was traveling with Turmoil in the 2000s when they did those reunion shows. They played a show with you guys that I was at, like in Baltimore. Like it was, I mean, it felt for me very much enjoying you guys, and then like being with Turmoil, like, oh yeah, like we're playing with Torn Apart tonight. I was like, and I just remember being in the van and being like, what?
we used to play with them a lot. Like Turmoil was another one of those bands that like we would go do weekends with a whole lot and always got along with them. Like they were super fun guys, like super cool. Like like I remember that show. I think it was at the Talking Head. I can't remember.
I can't remember the name.
Does that sound? Yeah, but
it sounds about right. I just remember it to me it felt so random because it was like, first of all, I hadn't like thought about Torn Apart like playing a show. I'm just like, what? Uh-huh. So, anyways, the reason I'm bringing that up is it seems like you guys obviously there's still a love for playing the music and you don't hate each other. That's not why you broke up in the first place.
Right.
So is it like you just get these random asks and you're like, sure, that sounds cool. We'll play that show.
I mean, I think back then, like I think the last time we did anything, I'm pretty sure it was like 03 or 04.
Okay.
I think. So yeah, like after like breaking up, like which was never actually like a breakup. It just kind of like fizzled. There was no like punctuation to it at all. And then, I think they just got like brought up as reunion shows. So there were two shows that happened early 2000s or something that were somebody asked us to play and it was local. So we did it. And it wasn't even the same lineup both times or, it was just like kind of throwing it together.
Sure.
After that, everybody truly went in their own directions. Like people moved away and there was no getting it back together. We would get offers every once in a while for a fest or something, but it was always our drummer always wanted to do it, and then he would be met with like 3 no's and a maybe, and then it would be like 2 no's and a maybe, and like that went on for obviously decades.
Right.
And then Aaron, the drummer, he lives in Austin, Texas, and he's still very involved in the scene, still playing music and like still doing it. And he was, I think he was like driving and doing merch for End It while they were on their run with Suicidal Tendencies. And I think it just got brought up and Aaron, like, in the group chat, like mentioned it again, like, all right, one more try, guys. Like, would we? And then I think I was still feeling like kind of no, didn't really want to do it. But then like, as I saw like how much like everybody else wanted to, I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to be the only one to say no. Like I'm in. And like, and then I had to sway the maybe, like the mic was a maybe, but Yeah, so like the fact that it is like it seems like that it can be that 59 session lineup. Like the 5 people that it felt the best being. We never had like a solid ending. I don't know, just seemed like the right, like I don't know why all the other ones got turned down and like now we're saying okay.
Yeah.
But just
timing is everything.
It just is. You know, I think a lot of it is I mean, mainly I just want to show off for my daughter. You know, I just want her to see me do something cool, you know. She's gonna think it's neat, at least.
How old is your daughter?
She's 15.
Okay. Yeah.
And she's like she's into it. You know, my musical interests have transferred over.
That's
somewhat.
Right. Yeah. Well, she needs to own her. I mean, she can't like all the stuff her dad likes because that's lame. So yeah, she needs to carve out some of her own stuff.
Yeah, but she'll still go see like Gorilla Biscuits with me and stuff. So that's cool.
That's cool. That's cool. The last thing I want to hit on was the like you mentioned, you know, tattooing has obviously been your life, and you focused your energy on that. And the connection between punk and hardcore is obvious there. Do you still feel, I mean, I know well, correct me if I'm wrong, you haven't played in any bands since Torn Apart, right? Or have you?
Yeah, briefly 2.
Okay.
There was a band called Bombs Away for a little while.
Okay.
That the drummer from Torn Apart became the guitar player. Yeah, and that was short-lived, and they kept going. I left. Okay. I just didn't want to keep at it. And then another band happened, like that's not even worth mentioning, but it was just a fun thing to do. I think we only played like 5 or 6 local shows, and that was it. And I didn't even sing in that one. I just played guitar. So like it had nothing to do with a hardcore band or anything like that, you know?
Yeah. The reason I bring that up is just because I guess probably feeling like you still have the connection and obviously love for the music in general, but not wanting to contribute in the, you know, like, oh yeah, like I don't need to play in a band anymore, but I still feel connected to it. Because of the, you know, the tattooing and your love for the music.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, the question that's in there is, I guess what keeps you, you know, connected? Is it just simply the fact like, well, yeah, I like this stuff and, you know, I tattoo people and it like that scene is all kind of intertwined. Or is it something more?
It is that, but it's like, it's also that it's just, it's the universe that I'm comfortable in. I like the way, like I wish more of the world could operate the way these things do. You know what I mean? Like where, I don't even know if I have like some big point in that or anything. It's just that, I still love the way it sounds. I still love the way it looks. I like the way it feels to be like still in it to a degree, you know? But now I just like put tattoos on the guys that have the energy to get on stage. You know?
Totally.
So I still feel like, I don't know, like I feel like just as valuable as like the doorman or the merch guy or something. It, you know, like it's still participating, just not the way I did.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, I love that because it's like, you know, tattooing the, you know, young bucks, like you can share stories of just like, oh yeah, you know, like, yeah, this is how we booked a tour. We lined up 7 inches and people are just like, this sounds like the prehistoric era. It's like, yeah, that's what it was.
Grandpa's got some stories. Yeah.
Totally,
we were talking about, like possibly like making some shirts for like these 2 shows. And one, just as like a joke, one of the ideas that Aaron sent through was like Torn Apart, like 1900s hardcore, you know, like just,
of course,
it's not even late night. It's just like, no, we're 1900s hardcore.
Right. Yeah. The turn of the century hardcore.
It's like we used the sun to find our way.
There you have it. Thank you very much, Brett, for letting me hit you up on Instagram and say, hey, would you be interested in this? And he was such a great chat. I loved it, and I hope you did as well. Like I said, if you've not listened to Torn Apart and you're a fan of 90s/early 2000s metalcore, please just do yourself a service and check that out either on YouTube or streaming platforms because the band is exceptional. Next week, I actually will be in Iceland, so don't mind me as I'm still releasing episodes for you because I want to remain consistent in your life. I have PD USA on the show. I love the diversity that I can paint with on this show, basically being able to interview anybody that, is interesting to me and falls under the independent music premise and umbrella that I have captured in this show. PD USA, for those of you that are unaware, he is a, indie rock / pop adjacent musician, grown to prominence on social media. He was kind of a comedian, funny dude on the internet for a while, but man, his records are incredible. I truthfully did not know who this individual was up until about 3 years ago, and shout out to my friend Jeremy and his podcast, first ever podcast. He had him on there, and I was like, this guy's cool and seems chill, and like his influences seem to check out. And then I listened to his stuff, and I'm like, dude, I love this. It's so good. So got the opportunity to pick his brain, and we go deep. We talk about a lot of different things, especially he get to throw out a first inning pitch or whatever, opening pitch, whatever. I'm totally butchering this, at a Cubs game. And there's very few people who I've had in the show that have had the honor to do that. So anyways, we got PD USA on the show next week. And until then, please be safe, everybody.